On today's TMJ4, breaking news coverage now of a shooting at Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. We now have understood from the sheriff that the person shot was a suspect, felon who is believed to be in possession of a firearm, that he was shot by Milwaukee police inside Children's Hospital.
And he was there, he was shot by Milwaukee police. Milwaukee police were on scene because a police officer was serving a warrant. The warrant was a possession of a firearm warrant, and they were on scene there in the first place because he was in possession of a firearm, or that warrant was there. And then they are saying it ends up that he did actually have a handgun that he later produced and showed them, which was why they felt threatened, which was why they ultimately shot him several times. And we don't know his condition at this point, but we do know that he's actually at the hospital being treated.
A couple of interesting points of information, and a couple of interesting points of information that did not get presented, maybe conflicting information, as Chopper 4 shows some of the medical personnel who are exiting the hospital. First of all, the sheriff made it very clear that officers pursued the suspect and that officers fired several shots, not indicating how many times the suspect was hit. What is unclear is whether or not the suspect fired back. Initially, the sheriff did not make any reference to the suspect shooting at police. Right. Later, in response to a question about how many shots the suspect fired, the sheriff said, "I'm not going to get into that." And then our Cody Holyoke followed up toward the end of the news conference, asking that question again, the sheriff declining to answer, saying he didn't get into it. So we don't know for sure whether or not the suspect actually fired shots at police. We do know that he did produce the gun, and it seems like, in police parlance, it's a clean shooting. Obviously, some questions raised about the propriety of officers going into the neonatal progressive care unit trying to apprehend a man who had a warrant, a man with a history of felon and gun charges against him. Of course, they had no way of knowing whether or not he was armed at the time, but that is something that I'm sure MPD and their internal affairs will be looking at procedurally as this case winds on.